Welcome to episode 37 of the Ape and Bird show. We are now having, it's almost the bird and burb show
Yeah.
nearly every week now. We had Matt Williamson last week. We have one of our more regular guests in 2023 with Sekure D returning today. Always a good chat to have Sekure on. One of the experts in the digital fashion, particularly sneakers area, a DGen on the side. Sekure, thank you so much for joining us today. I know we've got a big show.
Yeah, we do. There's so much going on. I bought a shit coin today. It's just good time. So let's go.
All right. Do you want to divulge what that shitcoin is, or
Yeah, I bought egg. There you go. I don't want to say anything else about it. I'm
no?
not going to be a shiller of
No,
shit coin.
not financial advice here, and yeah, definitely not the shitcoin show. But we have had some drama, and it's not shitcoin related, but this one I think caught a lot of people off guard with Ledger in the last 48 hours. Sekure. The TLDR is, they sort of tweeted out some. I can't remember what the actual product name was going to be called, but it was essentially to sort of shard your seed, and you could essentially send your seed in three separate shards. And really, people, this has got people worried. It's a bit of a knee knocking moment for people because they're thinking, is my ledger actually safe? Can it be hacked? Why would corporations potentially have my seed? And we often hear, and when we teach newbies coming into the space, the one thing we constantly say is do not have your seed phrase on any internet enabled device. And we know that people are saving hot wallet seed phrases on pieces of paper or in their notes on their phone, or pieces of paper is actually fine, but as long as you don't lose them. But on their phones or in their sort of one password, and they get hacked on a regular basis. And we know with Ledger and Trezor and these other hardware wallets, up until 48 hours ago, I think pretty much anyone in crypto land or NFT land was feeling very, very safe about their hardware device, that no one would be able to have the seed from that device. And it seems like there's varying opinions. Some people are calling this a nothing burger, and some people are calling it disgraceful, and that Ledger's completely dropped the ball. They have fumbled the ball with their communications. But give us your thoughts as we dive into this quite knee-knocking topic.
Yeah, when I read about it to begin with, I was terrified. I think in the last 2 years, there's been a plethora of occasions where all of us have run to our desktop or laptop to try and, revoke cache something or get out of a Discord because a bot's been hacked. When I saw it originally, I'm like, oh, I thought Ledger had been hacked, and so I had this like massive panic. I think for me, to your point, Greg, so many of the failures of the last 6 months from a project point of view have been driven by a lack of communication and clarity on communication. And for this to arise primarily because of a couple of off the cuff sentences in press releases that don't address the issue specifically creates fear amongst the community. And if Ledger was to go down, we all go down. I think, obviously, you emerge from the ashes, but honestly, if we all lost our ETH or whatever we have on our ledgers because of some sort of exploit here, the whole thing falls down for me, and my trust issues get amplified 5,000%. So at this stage, I am very cautious, but not instantly fearful anymore. However, I'm definitely not an expert, so I am reading the threads as they're coming out. And what I'm looking for is for Ledger to get on the front foot a little bit more and be active in addressing the commentary, the function, maybe even removing the function based on the community feedback, because we need our ledgers to be safe. And if they're not, we've got a really significant problem.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, look, we talk about trade-offs in crypto a lot, right? Whether it's trade-offs in various pros and cons of blockchains, whether it's trade-offs of hardware wallet versus hot wallet. There's not a lot of debate around hardware and wallet and cold wallet, but hot wallets, they're easier to use. You don't have to carry your device with you, but we all know that if you've got some value on a hot wallet, you're treading with danger, you're flirting with danger, because one malicious link, one sort of slip up, and you could have your funds drained. And hardware wallet is not a panacea for everything, but it definitely adds a lot more protection. And my take on this is, I think Ledger's intention is good in the sense of
Yeah.
this move of this sort of recovery is helping like really normies and getting new people into the space to give them, more option, I suppose, to recover their wallet if things go bad, et cetera, et cetera. But I think the issue here has been the people that are in NFTs and crypto, like we've learnt things the hard way. We've gone down the security rabbit hole and we've almost been, a bunch of paranoid nerds to a degree to really secure ourselves. And I think to be sort of pulling the rug out of people, like it feels like people have been rugged here because they're thinking, well, hang on a minute, I've got all my assets stored on my ledger or multiple ledgers, etc. And you're telling me there potentially might be a backdoor for someone to be able to get my seed phrase, and no amount of comms of saying, oh, well, they're trusted third parties or blah 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 blah. If you've been in crypto for a while, that doesn't make you feel any better. It might, if you're just coming in new to crypto, maybe you're like, oh, great, trusted third party. But we have sort of it's making us sound old here, but we've grown up in an era of self-custody, right? And we know that there's a high burden of responsibility on the individual. And with that comes, a lot of freedom, but it comes with a lot of great responsibility. And to be sort of somewhat told, maybe there is this back door, I think is just, it has made people very, very uneasy. I do want to read a couple of lines from Oxquit, who I think is one of the best security voices on Twitter. So Ox has actually said in this tweet thread, firstly, I admit a misunderstanding of the capabilities of the secure element contained in these ledger devices. I was under the impression that they were limited at the hardware level and could perform the basic task of signing messages using the private key, nothing more. So again, the TLDR of this is when Ledger issues some new firmware or some firmware updates, supposedly you are going to get the option to say, I want to opt into this sort of like recovery mechanism or not. But you've got a lot of people, including Oxquit, whose motto has always been when he's educating people around crypto security is don't be first, right?
Yes.
So he has said he's not going to update his firmware, at least in the immediate future. He's going to wait and see what happens. There are other people that are getting a little bit more dramatic and they want to jump ship to places like Grid Plus or Trezor, etc. We have seen Trezor troll Ledger on Twitter a little bit about this, but I think that's fair gamesmanship. But yeah, ultimately, I think I don't know if I can call this a nothing burger because I think it's really sucked a lot of confidence out of people. And I think before this week, you could make a strong argument that Ledger definitely had the upper hand on any other hardware wallet company. But I think it's just another issue in what we see the great crypto reality show on Twitter week in, week out.
It's amazing doing weekly spaces, being like, will there be something to talk about next week? And there's always something. But I think you're exactly right. We trusted FTX, we trusted that OpenSea wasn't doing anything dodgy, and then now we've got a basically staff member going to jail for insider trading. Like there is always a news story, and I think Ledger has built themselves into a name. By the way, Greg, I would not choose the name Sekure today if I was starting again from scratch, just because of the way that it gets correlated to our space so heavily. But you're right. I think at this stage, I'm not filled with fear immediately. The irony of not being first, I think, should be applied to all technology and product. I mean, first Air Max 360s popped, first Nike Frees all ripped at the back. Do you want the first Tesla? You don't. So I think I stand by that motto, and I will happily be third or fourth in the line, and we'll wait to see how we go. But until then, I have a backup of my seed somewhere that no one knows, which is in a very safe place. We'll just keep it there for now.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this seems more of a decision with Ledger. We won't beat this topic to death too much, but why not have two different products, two different hardware products? One is, the seed is not, at least what we all thought up until 48 hours ago, right? The seed just literally cannot be compromised at all, right? Like it can't come out of the element. It can't be sent anywhere. And then have another product that, yes, does it compromise on security? Yes, it does by a little bit. but does it give advantages in terms of social recovery? Yes, it does. So why not have both options, right? And then you're actually giving, it's sort of like people that want to keep their crypto on an exchange.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of people, particularly that are just not in the space as deep as you and I, Sekure, and the people that we sort of hang out with. If they want to keep their Bitcoin and Ethereum, like obviously you can get rugged. We've seen FTX, we've seen all these, these type of dramas before. But the reality is some people go, I don't want to set up a MetaMask or a wallet or blah, blah, blah. I want it to operate more like a bank where I just, all my IG or interactive brokers or one of these like stock market, brokerage firms, I want to put $5,000 in. I want to buy half Bitcoin and half Ethereum, and I'm just going to leave it on the exchange because they look after it. I just log in with my email and password and blah, 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 blah. So why not give the sort of counter options there in hardware devices where you say, if you want to be the hardcore security person, have full self-custody, no chance of any backdoors, then this is the product for you. But if you're willing to compromise just a little bit on security for more convenience, then here's the other product for you. And
I've been smiling the whole way through that, Greg, because you're about a centimeter away for product development for Apple. Small upgrade, brand new product. It seems to be the way that Apple have rolled things out for 15 years, but you're exactly right. It makes sense. Make it a different color, call it an elite version or a secure version or whatever you want to call it. Bang it out in new packaging, and you've got a easy route for people to understand the variants, right? I think it's a great idea. Maybe Ledger should listen to the Ape and Bird show.
I think they should. Okay, moving on from Ledger. Hopefully all of our assets are safe. Prayers up on that one. Pudgy Penguins. Pudgies are on fire. Yeah. What was the news? What was the news we've had out of the Pudgies overnight?
Well, as you can see in the background of my studio, I am an avid vinyl toy collector. I am a 37-year-old man with an 18-year-old's brain, a 16-year-old's wallet. They released a collectible vinyl toy for $19 with interchangeable like hats and glasses, and it sold out in seconds. And I think that when we talk about Pudgies, we talk about one of very few IPs that I think would survive an NFT crash. I think that, obviously we're down 90% on most of our bags, but I mean an end of times crash. And I think the team have done a fantastic job of building that IP into something that has significant value outside of just their NFT collection. It was licensed by the community. It comes with a cool little certificate of authenticity and partnership, and it's a beautiful execution of product. It's $19. It's affordable. It is super cute. And I saw Alex's building post tweet this week, a tweet that I did similar a couple of weeks ago, where I saw a sappy seal in a random conversation that had nothing to do with NFTs. He had a Pudgy Penguin GIF turn up in a chat where the people chatting had no knowledge of NFTs, and I think they're doing a great job of building their IP outside of that collection and bridging that gap into a non-Web3 world. And this toy is a perfect example of that, and I think we'll see them commercialized on a larger scale. And knowing that Amazon's coming with their, I hate the word, Greg, and I'm sorry, digital marketplace, I think this is just the beginning of starting to see a lot more of this stuff come to life. And doing it for $19 as someone who has like designed toys for 15, 20, like 10, 15 years is like really impressive.
Absolutely, yeah. Shout out to Luca Nets and the Pudgy team. I think I tweeted out about a month ago. I was on Instagram stories, and a friend of mine, she has a son that plays basketball. I think he's becoming quite a good player. He's in probably his mid-teens, and she had filmed him at a practice or at a game or something like that, and he hit a three, and in the corner of the Instagram stories was two Pudgy Penguins with a meme of "let him cook." Now, I'm 99.9% sure she has no idea what Pudgy Penguins are, and potentially not even what NFTs are, yet she's using Pudgies just in the everyday like Instagram stories context of these two little cute characters say, "let him cook." And I thought that was like, I know that Luke has had that out in the marketplace for a while. Like Gary V actually did this with many of his V friends on Twitter as gifts, over probably 18 months ago. So it's not something new, but I think the execution of Luca and Frank de God's like these people that just get internet culture.
Yeah.
And they're sort of like, they have that great balancing act of business people, but understanding community and understanding internet culture, right? And yeah, it frustrates me that other founders don't have that, but at the same time, it's sort of like, it is what it is, right? Like some people have got their strengths and weaknesses, and I think these guys do a wonderful job of like balancing this like anticipation of things coming, but also the execution. So like massive shout out if you own a Pudgy. I still don't own a Pudgy. I feel like now's probably not a great time to
Yeah.
buy, given there's so much.
5 ETH, I think they're cracked again.
Yeah, they're definitely approaching the fives. But I love this, and I think I think it's really exciting too when we think about all the different nuances, and like, we talk about CC0 and then, IP rights, and like, what Gary V does with V Friends, where he essentially just has like pretty much control over it. You just own the NFT versions. It's more like a collector card. But I just think it's exciting, all these different avenues that we're seeing, like by no stretch of the imagination do I think Doodles are completely shot yet. I know that Doodles, CloneX, and Moonbirds have had a lot of problems in the last couple of months that's been reflective of their flaw. But I just think it's exciting to see all these different projects etching their way into various pockets of mainstream and just various pockets of crypto niches too, right? Like not everyone has to be the next Disney. Not everyone has to be focused on art. Not everyone has to be focused on, this, that, or the other. Everyone's almost starting to like find their lane and double down on it. And I think it's just really, really fascinating.
Yeah, I agree. I'm officially the sneaker guy. So I think I've decided literally to use those exact words in the last fortnight and double down on my niche and make sure that I'm the expert in that topic for that very reason. I met Pixel and String at my very first NFT event, which was an NFT Melb event about a year and a half ago, where I decided to actually get out of the cave. I don't think I'd actually met you yet either. And we were talking about their approach with GIFs, Greg. I don't quote me on the number, but I think as of a couple of months ago, they bridged 1 billion views on their GIFs for the Chubbyverse. And you're exactly right. Like these cute understandings of like digital IP value in the internet space. And if you look at like Pixel's videos now, they're all actual animations of his cute character. And when you know your audience and the product that you're trying to create, it's a beautiful marriage of the two. And I think we can idealistically try and go in a direction that doesn't necessarily represent opportunity based on personal preference, but an understanding of the audience is key. And I think Frank's, like, to your point, demonstrated that perfectly, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of people that get it, I want to give a big shout out to Giancarlo. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, but Giancarlo is actually someone that I think I stumbled upon very, very early 2021. And he actually had a video on how to set up a Trezor. And it was when I was learning about hardware devices. And I thought, this guy doesn't feel like too shilly, and he feels quite authentic. And I've followed his stuff on and off for pretty much the last two and a half years. Now, he had a Discord that it was called Midnight Labs. And I want to give a shout out. This podcast has strong ties to NF Teams, which is Steve, my regular co-host, NFT project, and Steve's head moderator, T-Bar, actually shouted me out or sort of got me a foot in the door at Midnight Labs, which was a little bit of an under the radar Discord. And I went through an onboarding process in around October last year, where you had to sort of jump through some hurdles and try to sort of essentially get full membership into Midnight Labs. And it was around the time of NFT Fest, and my bandwidth was just stretched, incredibly thin. But whenever I went into Midnight Labs, it was such a high quality Discord, right? Like you had artists in there like Brian Brinkman, but you had like sort of degens, flippers, but it honestly had really good vibes. It in a way, it had a different feel, but it reminded me of early days Proof Collective, right? It was just a fun place to hang. You felt like you got a lot of value out of it. And I'd heard about this Mint or Skip new newsletter that came out a few months ago. It's a decent newsletter. It is hard, I find, when you get traditional emails, and we spend so much time on Discord and Twitter that often you don't open every single one of them or spend the time. Having said that, Mint or Skip launched its Genesis Pass 48 hours ago, 48 hours, 72 hours ago. It was a 1-year membership. And, I think on the whole, membership NFT meta has long gone. We've seen a lot of passes there's still a few passes out there that are holding up, but, they're down 90% off all-time highs, if not more. But Mintle Skip essentially is Giancarlo's baby. And they launched it a very reasonable 0.088 ETH, so a couple $100 late on, I think it was Tuesday night, our time at 11 p.m. Now, I actually minted token ID 1 and 2, right? I went to my OpenSea. I was like, oh, wow, I was the first minter, right? And anyway, the price ran up to about 0.3, 0.35. It's settled at 0.2 right now.
Yeah.
And so, it's been a reasonable buy. Now, there's only 1,000 of these. There's only 827 on the market at the moment because Giancarlo is giving out 200 for free that people were doing sort of like email newsletter referrals. But I'm quite excited, and I tweeted this out the other day. It's the first time in a while that I've felt conviction in the sense of I really like the person behind this and the team. And he did it in a very, very non-shilly way. Like a lot of people just didn't. I know our good mutual mate, Mark Media, tweeted at me today saying, damn it, I missed, Giancarlo's mint. Yeah. And so I'm excited for this one. I got back into the Discord today. So essentially the Midnight Labs Discord has morphed into the Mintle Skip Discord. There are a couple of additional channels for Midnight Labs OG members. I unfortunately got bounced out of that because I didn't do enough, hoop jumping in my time in that Discord. But, I don't have much more to add on this other than, it's 70% unique owners. It's only going to be 1,000 passes. Yes, it's only a 1-year membership. But Giancarlo has said, Genesis pass holders will have the opportunity to continue on. So, what is Mintle Skip? If you're hearing this for the first time, my TLDR on it is Giancarlo and his team. He's built out a team, have spent an ungodly amount of time learning how to vet new NFT projects coming down the pipeline. And, we know that there's, hundreds, if not thousands of new NFTs that are coming out every week. Even in this market, and to have, someone that's got like a bird's eye view on making recommendations of what projects have meat on the bones, in my mind, is very, very valuable, just like it is to be in Discords of people that are looking for quality projects. So I'm very excited by Mintle Skip happening this week.
Yeah, right. I actually was one of your referrals. You referred me. So yeah, thank you for that. I do enjoy reading it. To be honest, I only got 2 referrals myself, so I don't think I was immediately whitelisted. I think I was on like phase 2 or 3. When I looked at it, it was about 400 odd minted through, and then I kind of just forgot. The not having the experience with Giancarlo that you do, I was like, membership pass for 12 months. Like, nah. I'm like so spread thin on Discord and stuff already, but to your point, the potential for someone to actually do some of the heavy lifting or a team to do some of the heavy lifting is really a great efficiency amplifier for people. And I'm doing a similar thing with sneakers specifically in this space where, come to me and I'll summarize everything for you in 20 seconds or one thread to save you the time of trying to read a million things. And if they're doing that across the board, then maybe just the efficiency it provides you is worth the value alone, let alone you have 2, Greg. So if one pumps, you can flip it this time.
Exactly. I think there are going to be allow list opportunities with this too, which I'm excited by. So
Ledger promised that too, and that hasn't really happened with the Ledger Pass, which is basically a waste of time. And like, I could list so many things I have where we were like promised white lists, and that just never comes through. Look at where do we usually? Yeah. Anyway, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go into bin people mode.
Maybe we need a copium episode one week where we just literally come on with all of our grievances and we just throw it around. All right, let's talk Blur. We're not going to talk Blur too long this week because it's certainly been a hot topic over the last couple of months. But 2 new projects coming into the Blend ecosystem where you can essentially take loans out, buy now, pay later type of model. we have two of the more significant NFT projects of all time, Bored Apes, and your favorite project, Sekure, Mutant Ape Yacht Club. Is this going to be enough to entice you to get into the Mutant Ape Yacht Club ecosystem? If you just had to pay 1 or 2 ETH, I would love to see you as a mutant.
No, I have a brain and I'm not taking like a horrendous loan out on an NFT. I honestly think this is moronic. I think it's financial prison for the uneducated. I think that 99% of people who participate in this are going to get wrecked. Honestly, I think this is greedy, like corporate bullshit. I hate this loan mechanism. I think any degen worth his salt can find a better way to make money. And honestly, not about it. I'm avoiding it totally. And please don't pit me against the Mutant Apes. They all have more followers than me and they'll smash me.
Well, shots fired at the Mutant Apes by Sekure D. You heard it here first on the Ape and Bird Show. Certainly, I don't think it's going to be called the Mutant and Bird Show anytime soon while Sekure is still here. All right, let's talk Gary V. So 2 things happening on the Gary V and VeeFriends front this week, starting with VeeCon. VeeCon officially started today. There was an event similar to when I experienced in Minnesota last year. There was an event sort of out in a park, which was like a couple of hour event. And then the stadium side of the event, for a couple of days after that, I retweeted a video I took of Gary opening up last year's VeeCon that caught fire. I do have major FOMO at the moment. I was actually meant to be at VeeCon this year. I had booked flights back in February, I think it was.
Yeah.
And then when Proof pulled the pin on their conference, Proof and Moonbird's conference, I decided to pull the pin on my 3-week trip. Definitely hoping to be back for 2024. And I've got major FOMO, and I think it's going to be a great conference because, as I've said on this show multiple times, we actually recorded one of the very first Ape and Bird shows from VeeCon last year when Steve was mutating or revealing his Mutant Apes live on our show. I was taking all of our listeners through the stadium there in Minnesota. So Sekure, I have FOMO.
Yeah, so do I, mate. I think I haven't actually had the opportunity to go to a US conference of any type yet, but we know Gary V knows how to put on a good show. The lineup is great. I've seen Busta Rhymes live 3 times. He's phenomenal. So anytime you put Bust up on stage, that's going to be exciting. I'll sing every word to break your neck with nobody else in the crowd, I bet. But look,
we can't get you to do that today, can we?
We're not doing it. I need about 7 shots before we get there. But look, I think it's exciting, right? And maybe it gives people a glimmer of hope. And, people do have strong, nostalgic, positive vibes connected to the previous VeeCon. I meet so many people that are like, oh, have you been to a VeeCon or did you go to VeeCon? And it seems to be such an introductory question for so many people. And if this can do half of the sentiment that the last one brought, then I think it'll be great for where we are right now. And I'm excited for some more alpha to leak. I was expecting a few more bits and pieces on Twitter this morning when I woke up, but maybe it's still coming.
Here's the difference between VeeCon and many other conferences. The priority is the attendee for VeeCon.
Yeah.
The priority for other conferences is to extract every single dollar out of sponsors and attendees as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. That's the mic drop moment, I think, for the episode.
And that is why NFT Fest does well, because I run the same model as VeeCon. We care about curation. We care about speakers. We care about connection. The financials come secondary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as someone who spoke at the last one, I can attest to that. So, yeah, I think it's great. Hopefully, everything goes smoothly over the next 2 days. I have some pending meetings with people attending currently, Greg. So I'll get some firsthand feedback, and maybe next week I'll be a VTuber or whenever I'm back in the future. But it'll be an exciting update for us. I'm not a VeeFriends holder, but I think Gary's a good lighthouse for us in the space, and to continue to put these events on in the times that we're currently in is a lighthouse moment for us. So yeah, props to them, and hopefully they have a huge weekend.
I think we need a school excursion. Any guest and any listener that has been involved with the Ape and Bird show, we need to make 2024 the year where we go to VeeCon. So putting everyone on notice, start saving your pennies, saving your ETH. Let's get there in 2024.
Need this egg to pump and we'll roll.
All right, one last Gary V and V Friends news item, Beeple. So for those that are not aware, 555 of the Series 1 tokens are what is called a gift goat. Those receive gifts, I believe, once a quarter. I was looking at those at one point, but it's very early days. They're actually quite high. The initial mint price, they had a floor sort of during peak bull run of around about 20 to 25 ETH, which is pretty high. They're down to about 7.5 at the moment. But Beeple actually did one of his everydays. It's a very unusual looking piece. It's got like Gary that looks like, his head, and then, he's got like essentially an udder and looks like a cow. He's got, looks like you're about to milk Gary V. It's certainly not one of my favorite Beeple pieces, but we all know that Beeple does some pretty wild and out there stuff. But ultimately, this announcement actually happened at VeeCon last year in 2022. Beeple was one of the speakers, and Gary made that announcement to say, if you're a gift goat holder, you have a Beeple on the way. Fact that, we've just praised Gary and VeeCon, and that's great. But I think it is pretty interesting that some of these things take a lot longer to happen. Like, we've essentially had to wait, if you're a gift goat holder, a whole year to receive this token. And something similar was Snoop, the collaboration that Gary did with Snoop on the last day of VeeCon in 2022 last year. It was like, if you hang on to your 2022 VeeCon ticket, because those were airdropped as separate NFTs to Series 1 holders, there's a collaboration coming with Snoop. And he did actually say by the end of summer, US summer, being the end of August in 2022, that collaboration would be announced. It only got announced, only got executed on, I would say, 2 or 3 weeks ago. So we've given Gary a little bit of praise, but also I think he just needs maybe just a tiny little bit of a whack to say, what is up with making people wait a year after an announcement? That's probably a little bit too long.
Very Web 2 of you, Gary.
All right, moving on to our next topic. This is right in your wheelhouse, Sekure, but we've had some news with PUMA or PUMA, however you want to pronounce it, and Gutter Cat Gang. Tell us, is this the future IP expansion for existing projects?
Yeah, I really think that this is kind of a great indication of what a long lead rollout can look like, because if this is connected to products, then this partnership would have been in place, from 10 to 18 months ago. So I think that this is also a bit of a reflection on where we're about to head for the remainder of the year, where I would anticipate a lot more product-based collaborations to come out in the Web3 space. So in summary, Puma put out a video of like heat mapping basketball players with a bouncing basketball, excuse me, that also then reflected the Gutter Cat logo and the LaMelo Ball logo. And we know that LaMelo Ball has played in an NBA game with a custom pair of Gutter Cat Melo Ball ones in the past. So to have LaMelo Ball and Puma connected to Gutter Cat, whether it's digital, physical merch, I think it is a reflection of how these IPs can grow beyond just, the NFT collection. And obviously we've just talked about Pudgy. This to me is like the future. And what I'm hoping is that the Web3 mentality and ethos is reflected in the execution of these products, which, Puma's actually done a great job in the last couple of months. So you would say that they have an understanding of where they're going and how to do it properly. And the product that comes out then hopefully is rewarding the holders, but then gives the wider community an opportunity to get a gateway to that partnership, because it can't go one way. Collaborations traditionally with big brands, they want you to add value to them. And then you have to really have a tough conversation about how they can add value to you, because the point of view from the brand is you get value by working with us. Where, so you would hope that if there is product, there's Gutter Cat Gang holder specific product, but there may be some general release product that the wider community can buy into and support. And maybe like we just talked about with Pudgies or Chubbies or Sappy Seals, there is that aesthetic crossover into mass media where you can still create a product that's desirable. And I think these IPs, you will get a lot of physical IP execution in the next 6-7 months, because we're nearly 2 years into this cycle, Greg, and product with these brands takes 12 to 24 months to get to market. And 12 months ago, 18 months ago, we were hot as shit. So I reckon there's a lot that'll happen in the next 7 or 8 months, and we're just starting to see it happen now.
Absolutely. And I can see behind you, you've got a beautiful custom pair of turbo kicks there. So shout out to Rhett and everything that's blown up. Yeah, if you're watching the YouTube version, Sekure is showing a beautiful pair of Nikes with the little logo that was created. Was that created by Midjourney?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Give us a little bit of an update, Mr. Sneakerhead, Mr. Physical and digital sneakerhead. What is sort of happening in the world? Because I mean, for floors being decimated in general NFT land across projects that we've been accustomed to, one of the shining lights in the last few months has been the work from Adidas and Nike and Puma and everything that's happening in sneaker land. Have you got sort of just a general overview of what's happening in that sense?
Yeah, absolutely. We can start with Addy if you like. So Addy have released, obviously, if you had Enter the Metaverse phase 1 or 2, that transitioned into Alts by Adidas. So they have changed their Indigo Hertz Twitter handle to Alts by Adidas, which is now their consumer-facing Web3 platform branding. So that has gone live, and unbeknownst to holders, we received overnight 3 coins, which are Rift Valley Motel coins. So previously, we received an ID or like a DNA for our PFP. We also have Impossible Box garments that we're told are most likely going to be wearables for that PFP. And now we have these coins or tokens that we will be able to use to influence the outcome of our PFP. So I think it's a really creative way to drag out the process without just revealing the artwork, but also giving people the opportunity for customization of their final piece. We have no idea what the PFP looks like at this stage, but we've had the opportunity to build, I would say, a DNA. Like in clones, you have Alien or Angel or Robot, for example. In Adidas, you have like Deco, which for artists or sneakerheads or musicians, you have all these kind of little banners. Now you have the opportunity through these tokens to customize further. We're told that you will not be able to use more than 10 tokens. So people don't go and hoard 50 of them. It's probably a waste of time unless you think you can resell them. Floor's at like 0.0275, 0.03, so nearly a free 0.1 in the wallet overnight, which is nice for holders. And Alts is holding pretty strong at 0.27, give or take, 0.24. So pretty good update there from Addy, and sort of an exciting way to roll it out. They've had a really strong, 2 to 3 months when people like me were flooding them for not delivering anything other than a glow-in-the-dark tracksuit, basically, for a year and a half. So they've definitely turned it around. So much props and positivity to Addy, I think. Are we going to catch you in a orange hoodie and yellow jumpsuit, Greg?
Absolutely. I mean, I tell you one jacket that I haven't worn out in public yet, but I'm going to, and it's actually super comfortable and warm. So as we get to the winter months here in Melbourne, Australia, is I'm an alert ape holder from VeeFriends, right? And we got a free starter jacket, and it's like legit quality, but it's the worst color on me. It's red, right? So but I wore it the other night when I was cold, and it's so comfy. It's like one of the best jackets I've ever worn. So maybe I need to wear that on next week's show, the Alert 8. But I would definitely be willing to wear that Adidas tracksuit. I'm not too proud. I would wear it. I want to give a shout out, actually, before we swing back to you, Sekure, on Deadfellas news. But there was a little bit of news coming out of Jack Butcher's Checks project. There's a fair bit happening there. But in particular, checks are hitting Christie's, the auction house. So, we obviously saw a wave of projects, art projects, and PFP projects that were getting some love from the Sotheby's and Christie's of the world. In that insane run of sort of 2021 and early 2022, we now have, I'm just going to read, Checks Element is part of a 152-piece collection of monoprints and non-fungible token pairs, exploring the element relationship between digital and physical art and the manual and automatic processes that are present in each. So it goes on to say a few other bits and pieces, but I won't bore our listeners with too many details. But go check that out. I think that's pretty interesting. The current bids on the Jack Butcher Air piece is at 11.2 ETH, which is pretty healthy. There's one called Water. Current bid on that is 10.7 ETH. And the cheapest bid on Jack Butcher's Earth checks piece is 9.73. So I always like, I mean, there's some people that don't like the Sotheby's and Christie's model, but I like it from the intention perspective. I think, the reality is, and I've used this example on this pod before, is when brands and things that have been well established start to play in the space, it just adds some validation and credibility. And I want to give you a non-NFT related example that I may or may not have mentioned previously. When my dad was hearing me talk about Bitcoin for one of the first times, I wouldn't say he was a fudder. It's definitely hard to get your head around. And then he reads an article in one of the daily papers in Melbourne that the Commonwealth Bank was going to be essentially facilitating Bitcoin transactions, or in the future you'll be able to buy Bitcoin through CBA or ComSec or whatever. All of a sudden it moves his brain from, I don't get it, it could be a scam, to, oh, if it's good enough for CBA, it must be good enough for normal society. So when I think about, Sotheby's and Christie's, I always think about that type of example.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I also think that the cosign of major global brands and entities that can deliver credibility to the space and provide a sense of security to potential onboarders is super essential. And I think that pivots perfectly back to like Dot Swoosh and what they've done this week. Reportedly, over 350,000 people have signed up for a Dot Swoosh wallet address, which in a bear market is phenomenal. For a $180 billion company that kind of messed up the mint. There was too much traffic essentially, and they've gone and actually done a Twitter space to, communicate clearly and succinctly with the audience. It had nearly 6,000 people on it, and it's very Web3 centric. I'd say very Web3 focused from a communication standpoint that we harped on earlier about being super key. But for a brand as big as Nike, with as many rules that they have, they were able to communicate to the audience authentically and sort of weave their way around these traffic problems, which is really exciting, while also announcing all the utility that will be connected to the Dot Swoosh platform. So when we talk about like the Christie's and the Sotheby's, to have a brand like Nike on the front foot on Twitter doing spaces, 350,000 people signed up. There'll be a million Dot Swoosh addresses by the end of the year, Greg. Like, that's just going to be nuts. And if they're buying $19.82 Air Force Ones, who cares? They're all going to be on Polygon. They're going to have their own marketplace, and maybe they go and find something else that they find exciting because they've had that entry and that gateway. And this is where I think the validity comes from so many of these things, where I know there's always a resistance to big brands from a lot of people in startup, underground spaces, but it's an inevitability. And I think they've done it and gone about it the right way. And even though they've screwed us over in Australia and we can't participate, so we're standing on the outside, banging on the glass, trying to get in, I think it's pretty cool to watch it. And it's been exciting, to see that there is going to be all this utility connected to this. And, it's great, but, let's just be honest, it's going to make them billions of dollars. So there's a reason they're doing it.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that Ty Lopez wasn't doing their comms this week, because he might have gone out with his, I think we just broke the blockchain. So shout out to Ty the Grifter, who's a regular listener of the Ape and Bird NFT show. Haven't seen Ty back around for a while. All right, moving on to Deadfellas. Talk us through this, Sekure. We've had hologram content creation. I'm not across this one, but talk us through what the latest at Deadfellas.
I'm a bit of a maxi, so I'll keep it short for you. But I think one great thing that they're doing, we talked about GIFs and the translatability and the commercial element that can bring through a project. Deadfellas have been, focused on providing, I would say, added utility for the ownership of the NFT. Everything that they have and build, they want to tie back to the original PFP collection and reward the holders. So whether it's voxels or pixels, now that there's going to be hologram and VTuber extensions connected to the Deadfellas. So there won't be a separate mintable entity. There will be I would say, an ownership reward for your PFP. And I think that, when you have strong established communities with content creators like, Based AF that I was on and we spoke about the other week, are doing their videos. We have a lot of people doing, TikTok videos now. And I think giving the people the opportunity to stay anon, but also then amplify your IP in their content will bring millions of eyeballs to your project by just providing the facilitation of that content creation. So that goes live tomorrow at 2 a.m. Our time, Friday, Fellas Fridays, they always do. So when the fellas lived in Australia, it was a very commercial time for us in the morning. Now it's horrific because they're on LA time. But I just think it's a cool way to continue to add value. Like, does it move floor? Maybe fractionally, but what I think it does is, as we start to see an upturn and people are looking for utility and value connected to projects and what they get out of it, Galverse is doing VTubers as well. I think the more that you can do with your PFP as we move forward will be really important if that is a part of the market that you want to buy into. And I think we'll see a lot of dead fellas creator content on Twitter over the next couple of months when this goes live. I've already trialed it. I have a cool beanie and pimp jacket, so maybe we'll bring it to life in the next couple of weeks.
All right. Well, next time you're on this show, I'll be wearing the Alert Ape jacket and you'll be wearing the pimp jacket.
We need to do, Greg? We need to make an event where we all only wear NFT merch to the event. I think it would just be funny as.
Yeah, I'm in. Sign me up. Okay, couple of last items to round out today's show. Some news from G Money's 9DCC project. This one, I know a buddy of mine, Dan Cube, shout out to Dan. He has some stuff from G Money's project. I've just lost the tweet here and I just want to bring it up. But essentially it was tapping a garment, one of the 9DCC. That's a tongue twister, that one. And then you were playing a digital game for points and scores, but really this is all based off NFC chips. What are you seeing in your world, Sekure, that's coming down the pipe with this type of technology of essentially microchipping our garments that we're wearing?
Welcome to the flavor of the month, hey? So I feel like it's very much on the tip of everyone's tongue at the moment and working in that validator for your product onto the blockchain. So even just from a very micro level, I'm working on doing that for all my customs. So you'll get a certificate of authenticity tied back to your custom. And I think it's just a beautiful way to round out the Web3 messaging of IRL product. I know that there's smart people out there who know how to hack RFID chips and relocate the URLs that are on them and stuff. We're not trying to be revolutionary. For me, it's just a little add-on feature and something that is native to our space and adds a little bit of value. I love the idea of rewarding people with existing garments with the opportunity to gain access to something or reward for something via the use of that RFID chip. So I think the extension of it into rewarding owners is really fun rather than just like a certificate of authenticity or a replication of a PFP or whatever, a digital garment. So I think that's a really good conceptual step sideways for RFID chips and a really good way to build that sort of community within a community. Because if we release merch and, maybe 6 months later, half the hoodies are, worn out in the garage, washed too many times, fallen apart because people live in their dark dungeons in their hoodies in our world, then maybe the guys who still have them have the opportunity to participate and be rewarded for keeping good tack of their clothing. I love this sort of stuff. It promotes sustainability and a good message, and the more things that we can do to reward people and make it holistically native to Web3, then I think we're moving in a good direction. It's a basic thing, let's be honest, but it's a really good 1%er.
Love it. Well said. One of the projects that you and I have got a keen eye on, and it's certainly not a new project, but it has good meme value and good vibes. Our friends at the mfers, they are going on chain. And correct me if I'm wrong, though, I watched the video you sent me yesterday. It's not necessarily the current mfers going on chain. It's going to be a replica. Have I got that right?
Yeah, that's my understanding as well. So it'll be tied to your PFP, like in soulbound token tied to your existing PFP, and it'll be released in phases. So I think 131 was the first phase, Greg, I think, and then they'll start to roll it out after that. But look, I mean, we all know what they did for the Nakamigos that are Nakami gone almost at the moment, although I think they still have a floor of like 0.18 after there was a little bit of a rumor going around about who the founder was. I don't know if you heard that rumor. I don't want to say it on this fantastic show and spread misinformation, but I'll tell you afterwards. So yeah, that had a bit of a run, but I think it's really smart. I think it's a good way to go, right? Like it's just MFers have a vibe. People love their MFers. There's still MFer spaces like every day I see on Twitter. I don't know if I'd rock an MFer. I'm sticking with my personal branding. I need to find one without a cigarette in its mouth, but that's the vibe. I think I've been deciding between like a Sappy Seal or an MFer, and I think I fall on the side of MFers, so I might have to get on board this week.
Yeah, I love the MFers, and as I told you before we went on air, I have had about three MFers that I've really liked in the last 6 to 8 weeks that I've been stalking, and one of them was only 0.78 about a week ago, and I
Yeah.
I actually screenshotted it. I sent it to a few friends. I
Oh
said, I think I'm
no.
going to buy this one. I went to bed without pulling the trigger. Sold by the time I got up. And so I am getting very picky with which one I want. I definitely vibe with them. Maybe being picky is not the play because then I probably won't want to sell it. But yeah, I just love the tagline and sort of the ethos of like MFers do what they want. And it's a great decentralized project. It's got meme value. It's just, yeah, I think it's hilarious that they're just stick figures, and it breaks people's brains why people would buy them. And that's the reason that I like it.
Well, Greg, like I'm doxxed. Like my initials are MF. Like I've been called an MFer my whole life. So like for me, it just feels like an inevitability. I've just got to stop, waiting around and pull the trigger. So I feel like just the name alone needs to get me across the line. And we just won't tell Boot till we've already got them. I think he'll be pretty thrilled.
Yes. All right. Last news item. We have the first ever physical item sale on OpenSea from Invisible Friends. Walk us through that.
Yeah, so I think this is a step sideways again. Obviously, we know that Amazon is launching their marketplace in the next couple of months. We don't know exactly when. We're waiting for that launch date, but I know you're more well connected than I am, Greg, and I've talked to 3 or 4 people that have partnerships with Amazon. So I'm imagining you might have talked to a couple as well. It feels like a lot of big top 15, top 20 projects will be launching on Amazon, and then maybe some top 200 kind of projects as well. And it sounds like their mentality will be about bringing a digital and physical element to the marketplace. And I think that OpenSea are actually out there hunting mint partners right now, and things aren't minting out on OpenSea like they were when they launched their integrated mint phase, right? Like the first 10 to 15 things that launched on OpenSea all sold out instantly because people saw it as a free whack and a safe mint, right? Now things aren't minting out. So if you need to create revenue, if you're OpenSea, how are you going to drive revenue? Well, you're going to bring physicals onto the platform, and I think potentially OpenSea have seen that as a fantastic way to drive revenue. And then Invisible Friends, their character is so beautifully created and designed to fit into this world. Where we gave a pat on the back to the Pudgy Penguins for launching for $19. These are a little bit expensive. I would say that the smaller version isn't too bad, but the larger one runs at, I think, 0.6 ETH, which is really expensive. I'd buy one of my cause statues for that personally. But, if you are so inclined, the opportunity is there. So the first time, I think, that OpenSea has ever launched a physical product on their platform. And I think it's probably a sign of things to come and a sign that many more things will launch on there. But toys are the flavor of the month, hey? It feels like I'm in a room built for this space. Every day I wake up and I feel like I'm in the right place a little bit more because I feel like my 20 years of work is all just coming to life in Web3 at the moment.
You are hitting on all cylinders, sir,
Yeah.
as the sneaker expert and a toy connoisseur. This is your time to shine. So no, look, I think great things still happening in NFT land. Yes, floors are still struggling in terms of the projects that we're all accustomed to, although there are some exceptions. The captains still remain
Mm-hmm.
very, very strong, and as we mentioned, the Pudgies and sort of the D gods of the world as well. But I'm still very, very bullish on just the amazing opportunities that there are in NFT land and digital asset ownership in general. So great way to finish, Sekure. Another fantastic episode with you. Looking forward to having you back on the show too when Steve returns. We're going to have to get, people like yourself and Matt and Boot in a regular rotation to come in as a 3-person show. So we'll hopefully be able to keep you as a friend of the show moving forwards, and we appreciate your time. I will give our regular disclaimer that nothing on this show is financial advice. This show is for informational and educational purposes only. Sekure, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Greg. Always fun, mate.
And we'll see you back next week for episode 38 of the Ape and Bird Show. Catch you later.